What is up, everybody? It is me, Video President 102, and today I am reading chapters 4 and 5, Bad Moon Rising. And it's not because I got a specific comment on a specific video or anything from someone specific. Let's get into it. He slid into Patton's room again, the citrus smell less confronting and more familiar. The seat still wanted to gag, feeling the scent stuff itself up his nose and down his throat. These damn light sides and their sensitivities! Deceit despised them. How could Virgil stand to be around them? Just being in Patton's room made Deceit's head hurt, made his stomach turn, made his skin itch. Every atom in his body was begging to flee, get out, get out! He wasn't made to be there. He wasn't supposed to be here. Where were the shadows? Why was it so bright and not heavy? And why? Deceit threw himself back into the darkness moments before Patton appeared in his room. Deceit almost let himself be sucked back into his own room, but something about Patton's face gave him a pause. The light side's eyes were cold and vacant, filled with twisted emotion Deceit had never identified in mortality before. He'd almost wanted to reach into Patton's soul and dip a finger in the darkening mark. He wanted to pull the thread and watch Patton unravel. Did that say deliciously? I'm sorry. How deliciously vicious it would be. I'm sorry. You know, Patton, you're an astonishingly complex being, he crooned, stalking out of the shadows. Patton's heated glare fell upon him, and Deceit almost shuddered. He'd never seen Patton look so dark. He smiled. When I imitated you the first time, it was almost too easy. Too boring. How dull it was to play you. What with the other rendering you as nothing more than an over-emotional fool who knew nothing of value. Patton's eye flared brighter, but there was something defeating there too, and Deceit smirked. Forget his own troubles when exploring Patton's was so enjoyable. He let himself go with a little and giggled, feeling something hysterically monocle claw up his throat. The Duke must have affected him with something. Such power you hold over them, Deceit purred quietly, feeling the sense of power send him higher and higher. Such power you have over Thomas. You're truly the most important side. For once, he wasn't really lying. Stop it, Patton said quietly, but where Deceit expected the pleading tone of his voice, there was nothing but a dry sense of finality. The light side hummed to himself. Expression flat. Deceit had to push harder, had to dig his fingers in a little tighter. If I were to imitate you again, it would be far more difficult, I expect. So many layers, complex, tangled emotions. Deceit peered into Patton's eyes, and his miraculous grin widened. Denial? That one is my personal favorite. Sincerely, cross my heart. There was the delicious anger that simmered overflow of negativity and fear and self-deprecation. Deceit had been waiting for it to come out, had been waiting to see how deep the red hole really went. I think that you're the only scary because you don't want to admit what you mean to Thomas. Deceit raised his eyebrow, because maybe Patton thought he'd sounded steady, but there was a sort of wild worry to him that made Deceit feel so much better. Listen, Patton continued. I don't want nor need you hissing in my ear all the time. Just go away. Deceit pouted. But Patton, dearest, why would you send me away when I'm the only person you could trust? Push, push, push. Patton scoffed. Trust you? A dishonest man you could always trust to be dishonest, Deceit quoted. Honestly, it's one of the honest ones you should watch out for. He had no excuse for the shameless pop culture references. He just loved Pirates of the Caribbean. Patton sighed. Pirates of the Caribbean? He asked, and he could see the walls lowering, could see Patton softening, could see his way in. Wouldn't have pegged you for the type. He was getting in. He was getting through to Patton. There's so much deception and backstabbing in those movies, he responded coyly. How could I not love them? Movies aside, the quote is relevant. Time to step it up. I am an honest person. I am not an honest person, but you could trust me to be dishonest. Can you trust the others, Patton? Can you trust that they won't lie to you and hurt you and twist you around their fingers? Patton's head lowered, his chin touching his chest as he chewed on his bottom lip, so he could see the thoughts behind those brown eyes. Patton was weakening. Patton was doubting. Patton was darkening and breaking and giving in, and it was glorious. But it was taking too long, causing too much trouble. Deceit wanted Patton to surrender now, without a fight, without argument. Deceit needed time to get to Virgil. He didn't have time. Tick-tock, Deceit. Patton was quiet, and Deceit was growing impatient. How far in denial did the light side have to be? He opened his mouth to push some more, but Patton raised his chin, looked right into his eyes, and said, You don't bother me! Deceit hummed. The playfulness suddenly gone. He didn't have the time or the patience for this. He loved playing games, but only when he was winning, and he wasn't sure he was winning this one. And yet, I bring out your anger, he hissed. I bring out your aggression. I bring out everything you despise in yourself. Think, Patton, and wonder why it is that you're always so defensive around me. Denial is a wonderful thing. You don't bother me. Do you want me to lie to you, Patton? Do you want me to say that I won't break your friendships apart? That I'll leave you alone? That I'll forget about Virgil? Do you want me to say that I'll let Thomas forget me so you can feel better about yourself? You don't bother me! Deceit bared his teeth, eyes alight with savage wilderness. You won't ever outrun this, he swore. That is the truth you must bear. He let the shower swallow him and pretend he didn't hear a clock ticking somewhere in the darkness. Tick. Deceit wasn't ready for the wall to splinter. It had been there for so long as he dared remember, keeping the worst of the darkness at bay because they all loved Thomas in their own twisted way. They wanted to protect him, but not shelter him. The world was crafted out of spider webs and brittle lies, but Thomas could face it. He was strong. So they built the wall because they may love Thomas, but they were the dark sides, and they weren't supposed to exist. Their work was silent and invincible and painful because they were locking away parts of themselves just so that Thomas could be okay. Deceit had been one of the first ones to start working on the wall. He knew how solid it was. Talk. It wasn't supposed to splinter. Tick. When it shattered, something in his chest twisted sharply, and he choked on the pained grasp. A high-pitched kneeing noise sputtered and spun through the air, getting louder and higher until he couldn't hear anything else. The noise went under his skin and into his veins, and it began to tear apart everything that he was. A monster was assembling in him, and he could feel anger wriggling and surging. Poison was spreading through him, and he could feel the coldness coming to claim him again. Thomas. Tuck. The shadows would devour his host. They would rip him and tear him into pieces, and then Thomas would be rebuilt into something dark and soulless and inhumane. Deceit couldn't let them. The dark sides, they would try to stop him. They would fight him because they wouldn't want to go back. They wouldn't build the wall again. But Deceit had to. For Thomas. Tick. except he couldn't make his body move. Tuck. Deceit gritted his teeth and fought the spreading darkness in his veins, but it was no use. His full energy was returning to him, was burning up in the bloodstream. Soon enough, Deceit would be a monster, because it wasn't the dark Thomas should fear, it was what was in the dark that should terrify him. Because if Thomas looked into the dark, Deceit would be the one looking back. Tick! The wall, Remus said as he appeared in Deceit's room, voice slightly strained. Deed, the wall is broken! Deceit bared his teeth and mocked his grin. Yes, he agreed slowly, and delighted in the cold shiver that crept across his shoulders. And isn't it glorious? Remus's face lit up with a twisted sort of glee. Deceit's hand flexed as his dark poison finally finished chilling his veins. Oh, he missed this. How alive he felt. How powerful. Thomas should share in the raw rush. Tuck. The wall had been a terrible idea. Deceit met Remus's eyes, feeling something hysterical bubbling up in his chest. My dear old Duke, he purred, running his tongue over his teeth. His breath hissed out of him. What fun we're going to have. Remus laughed, and it was wild and unrestrained and deranged, and for a moment Deceit felt a flicker of horror at what Thomas would have to face. His host wouldn't know what to do with his sudden swell of horrific feelings, especially not if Pen was having his own negative effect. Tick! Oh well, Deceit hadn't felt this good for far too long. Tuck! The others are waiting for you, Remus said, voice especially aloof. His eyes were blown wide with glee and power, and Deceit's misgivings vanished like smoke on the wind. Are you coming? I'll be there, Deceit promised, his sharp teeth gleaming. There's just something I have to do first. Remus hummed, a knowing smirk twisting his lips. Don't keep me waiting, he purred. I'll be terribly lonely if you betray us like Virgil did. Tick! Was that a warning? Deceit nodded his head, watching the narrow eyes as the Duke faded away, cackling wildly, and yet there'd been something vulnerable about him. Perhaps Remus was feeling the strain of Virgil's absence. Perhaps the others were not as feeling as they claimed. Perhaps the resurgence of their full powers had awakened the need to be whole again, and they couldn't do that without Virgil. Tuck! So what would happen if Deceit decided he didn't want them anymore? Tick! His low laugh hung in the air as he slipped away through the shadows to check on the wall. The darkness held him tightly, slithering along his skin like cold fingers, and Deceit chuckled. We'll rise once again, he whispered into nothingness. My old friend, we will rise. The darkness whirled in excitement, pulsing against Deceit's skin. Tuck! You have to let me go, though, my dearest darkness. There is something I must attend to before we regain our control over Thomas. Tick! They allowed him to appear before the remains of the wall. Glimmering shower of willpower lay fractured on the ground, a gaping hole of nothing. Every step the Deceit took made a crunchy sound as he walked over proof of his old heart. He'd cared once. He shuddered. What a truly awful thing. Tuck! Was that what Virgil felt when he left? The wrongness of his own skin, the sense of utter despair that he choked him as he stared at the remains of one of the only good things he'd ever done? He built the wall to protect Thomas. Here he was, standing on its remains. How could he be so unaffected by it? Why was he so affected by it? Tick! Surely the internal conflict was what drove Virgil away, into the arms of the light sides. Surely Deceit wasn't alone in the misgivings and his guilt and his disgustingly human feelings. Tuck! If the others found out, he would never escape them again. Tick! tuck. And you see that's the end of the story. Forever. Bye. I'm kidding. No, it's gonna continue soon. That would be a really dramatic ending, though. Or what if like there was 2 books to this because it was like a really, really long thing, and then it's like it just ended there for the first book. You had to read the second book, and it was just like cliffhanger. So thanks for watching. Because this video is a wee bit shorter because there's only 2 chapters. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna do another video after this because I'm actually on my sister's tablet right now because she's grounded from it, so my mom's letting me use it. So as long as she's grounded for it, you guys are gonna be getting a video a day until she has to get it back. So I want to thank the creator, Becca911, because she is cuckoo and she's nice and she's amazing and I love her. She's just like the best fanfic creator. She's amazing. I think I said that like 15 million times in this video. Oh my god. So anyway, do your best.